In an earlier video where we went through the Windows Explorer interface for SOLIDWORKS PDM, we took a look at searching using PDM. At this point, I want to go back to that search and do a little bit more complete discussion about how you do the searches and what you can do to edit searches and create custom searches. So let's start by just getting into PDM and starting the open search. You can see here that it's looking in this vault. If I wanted to, I could browse it to look in other vaults or specific parts of the assembly. So for example, I'm going to look in just this assembly folder location. I'm going to look for a name that has LT in the name and the description. I'm going to leave that blank, and the number, I'm going to leave that blank. So let's go ahead and search and see what we get there. So we can see down below that we've got a number of files here, and it shows us where it's found in. Now we can filter that out even more if we want to add more definition here, so we can do LT0, and you can see now it only searched for things that have a combination of LT and a 0 in it. But you'll notice that all my LT parts that I had before I did the 0 search all went away. So I'm going to do that one more time. See how now all those parts weren't there before? So the search is a little bit specific. You should only put in partials of a name or one thing at a time to do your search. You can, further filter out by description. Maybe you type in a word down here and run it again, and you find that, okay, now with LT and the description of flange, we can find this part because in its description, it has the flange value. So let's take a look at that here. So very cool, but pretty finicky if you don't know exactly what you're searching for. So you might add, a number of things. For example, like I could have put in LT and 016 and done a search. And I do get that, but sometimes because it's a partial in a row, it doesn't like it. So if I had a space in here, for example, you can see that that search gives me some varied results. So running it a few different ways is always a good idea. It doesn't work like you'd think a Google or a simple word search would work, so it can be a little bit finicky. It is looking at the name of the file. Sometimes it's easier to search by description or a part number. But let's move on from this tab and look at some of the other things. So we can search by project. So let's say that, let's expand this a little bit so we can see better. Let's say, for example, I'm working LT. You can see here I have no numbers in the LT. That's the different part number than we had before. And in description, we can search by flange, for example. And now because that LT part that I was looking at before had flange in the descriptor, I was able to pull that up. So this is a little different way to do it, but again, using stuff that's in your cards. You can search by variables. So if you want to search by approved by to get a list of things that are approved, or by cost, by date, by who did it, or by description. Again, we can add description here, text contains, and I'm going to put flange one more time. Hit that play button to start my search. It's going to go through and check all the variables for flange, and there you go. It popped up with our search results again. So you can add a combination of variables here. Let's say if you have a huge vault and you're trying to search for a very specific thing, or if you have a product line series where, for example, like McMaster car parts have very thorough descriptions, things like that. It can be really useful. You can do it by checked in, checked out. So if you're going to do some updates and you want to find out what files are checked out, you can go in here and see who's got what checked out. So I can search by myself and see what files I have checked out. Right now, I shouldn't have any. That's correct. But if we go and look at our admin, for example, we're going to find a bunch of files come up checked out. But for this case, we've just got this one right now. I must have just checked in some files. You can also tweak this to display checked out files, display non-checked out files. It all depends on what the status is of everything, but it's a good way to do your search. So you can also search by version data. So if you put in those comments and they're very specific, you can search by user and what version they put in the comment. Again, you can search by workflows. So if something's been approved, you can search by that. None approved yet. This is a new vault, so we're going to have to go through that. You can also search by labels, history, and content. So a lot of different ways to search. One thing you can do is save this search. So this specific search that I set up here, I can add to my favorites. I can make it available for all users, and they can even edit it. So we're going to do the LT flange. So now when I come over here, you'll notice that the LT flange is one of the first favorites. So let's say I go back to my main vault, go back into search, nothing here. Well, I can go to my favorites and put an LT flange, and you can see it automatically changes the search and makes that come up. And that search option, because I made it available to everyone else, will be available to the other users as well. You can also save out your search results in the Item Explorer, but this is a little bit more advanced. I wouldn't get into this necessarily. You can just know that it's there. And that basically covers all the ways that you can search through SOLIDWORKS in the ePDM tool. Like I said, it's a little bit finicky. It's not the best search tool ever, but if you have very full descriptions, accurate part names, accurate part numbers, and make sure that you use the number attribute, you'll be able to search and find all of these items.